What's up, investing aliens? Eric here. Hope you guys are doing great. Stock market is ripping today. I want to give you a quick update. We'll talk about why the stock market's moving, and we'll look at a few individual stocks like Tesla, just some quick news and announcements for each. Green Day, not the band, although I do like me some Green Day, but you can see the market. Nasdaq's up 2.28%. The Russell 2K, those small caps, at one point were up 5% today, up 4.59% on the Russell 2K. That VIX is down almost 5% at 14. And treasury yields have come down, which is why you're seeing risk on. So the 10-year treasury yield under 4.5%, hovering right now at 4.453%. It was even a little bit lower than that this morning. And oil's still under $80 at $78, down slightly today. You can see the heat map, pretty much everything is up. Tesla's up 5%, Amazon's up 2%. We got several stocks that are at 52-week highs today, or really close to 52-week highs. I went through this morning on my main portfolio. I posted this in Discord, but these stocks are at 52-week highs or really close. Nvidia, not quite there, but it's getting close. Nvidia, Microsoft, Lam Research, Broadcom, Costco, ServiceNow, United Healthcare, Amazon, Palantir, CrowdStrike, Zscaler, Wingstop, and Mercado Libre. The reason for the market pop today came down to the CPI report, inflation. So the consumer price index that we talk about on the channel all the time, CPI, increased 3.2% on an annual basis. That's down from 3.7% in September, and a COVID pandemic era peak of 9.1% in June of 2022. So June of 2022, we were at 9.1%. Now we're at 3.7%. Of course, the Fed wants to get this down to 2%. So we do have some ways to go here, but the market's looking forward and being very optimistic at this point, especially on this green day. A quote here: "The disinflationary trend is in place," said Sarah House, that's senior economist at Wells Fargo Economics. But we're getting into a harder part of the cycle. In other words, it's going to be much harder to get it from 3.2% to 2%. And honestly, guys, I've seen some arguments where you could say, maybe the new norm is slightly higher than 2%. The Fed is adamant about getting it to 2%. I think it's going to be really hard to actually get it down to 2%, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm not an economist, but this economist here is saying that it's going to get harder at this point to go much lower. And of course, we talk about the push-pull dynamics of the macro. If unemployment goes up, consumer spending goes down, things like that. There's been a lot of talk about recessionary fears because of the consumer, but we're seeing strength still in the consumer and the labor market, unemployment still pretty low. Checking out inflation here. This is a cool chart that kind of shows you where inflation's at. So food, 3.3%. This is kind of random. Food from vending machines and mobile vendors, they're gouging you up 14.9%. Frozen vegetables, 10.7%. Uncooked beefsteaks, 10.6%. Electricity is down at 2.4%. So that's come way off, especially with energy prices down. Admission to sporting events. I just went to the Vikings Saints game with our 2022 MVP from Discord, Derek. It was a really fun time, but I can attest to this. Sports games, it's not cheap to go to a sporting event, and it's not something I certainly couldn't afford to do it every single weekend. You go broke. And you can see the rest of the numbers on your screen. Another quote here: "Inflation is slowly but steadily moderating, and all the trend lines look good." This is Mark Zandi, chief economist at Moody's Analytics. "It feels like by this time next year, inflation will be very close to the Federal Reserve's target." So he thinks we're going to get close to 2% by this time next year. Now, you probably remember last Friday, we've got the Moody's downgrade, and I actually thought we would see more volatility on Monday than we did. It really became a non-event. And then just this morning, Home Depot reported earnings, and the headline here: Home Depot says the worst of inflation is over, and that could be good news for retailers and shoppers. So you're getting a combination of good news here pushing the market higher. Now, this is not something that you would use to buy or sell stocks. I just think it's interesting information. This is on Fidelity, and it's going to show you the orders by Fidelity customers. So essentially, this is going to be retail investors, and not everybody's on Fidelity. There are a ton of other brokerages, but a lot of people in our community, for example, use Fidelity that are US members. Tesla's up 5% today. You've got buy orders 3,445, and you can see here the buy-sell ratio: 39% buying, 61% selling. In fact, if you go down the line, you can see Nvidia, same kind of thing, basically 60% sell, 40% buy. The TQQQ, this is the bullish NASDAQ 100 QQQ. The SQQQ is going to be the bearish leverage ETF. So the bullish leverage ETF, buy only 35% and sell 64%. And then the SQQQ is about 50-50. Buy 50.52%, sell 49.48%. I think that's interesting. Again, it's not a reason to buy or sell. You can see some other movers here, like this ticker Air up 114 or 111% today. And then you got ServiceNow. I mentioned this one earlier. I own this in my main portfolio. It's up 2.35%, basically at 52-week highs, and pretty much 94.71% sell orders. Not a huge amount of orders, but just interesting to look at. I want to share quick updates for Nvidia and Tesla. So yesterday, Nvidia announced the H200 model. You have earnings coming up here yet for Nvidia. We really have to see those. And you probably saw this in the news. I won't go into a whole lot of detail on this, but you have the H200. So shares were up about 1% yesterday, up even more today, as the GPU giant unveiled a new version of its Hopper GPU, the Hopper 200. To create intelligence with generative AI and HPC applications, vast amounts of data, of course, as you know, must be efficiently processed at high speeds using large, fast GPU memory. With NVIDIA H200, the industry's leading end-to-end AI supercomputing platform just got faster to solve some of the world's most important challenges. And of course, generative AI has been all the buzz this year, 2023. And there are some companies that are hyped that don't belong in that category. But when you think of, especially the stocks we've covered on this channel, back in January, we did a top 10 AI stocks to buy for the next decade. Of course, stocks like Nvidia, Palantir, Snowflake, Microsoft, Tesla, those are on that list. And generative AI is going to be huge, and it's continuing to evolve. We're really in early innings, and a lot of this is going to unfold over the next couple of years. So one thing we have to see with Nvidia earnings, I think the earnings will be good. We know there's a lot of demand. The question is, how long can they sustain that kind of monopoly? You've got AMD and Intel and others trying to play catch up. And Nvidia, if you look at last quarter, they didn't sell a ton more chips. They basically sold them at way elevated prices. So can they keep those prices high, and for how long? And can they sell a lot more chips and keep ahead of the competition by coming out with newer and newer models? We talked about this in Discord, and this is the kind of stuff we talk about in Discord. So if you're not in our private community, definitely need to check it out. We have a free 7-day trial. You can go to patreon.com/firedupwealth. No strings attached. You can join, try us out, try Discord for a whole week, absolutely free. But we talked about how Intel is trying to play catch up. And, there was an article saying that their new AI chip for data center is going to be faster than the H100. Well, that's not going to come. H200 is already coming out, and NVIDIA is working on the next generation that will come out before Intel can even release. Now, I'm a fan, I guess. I'm rooting for Intel. I want Intel to be successful, especially on the foundry side of the business. As you know, when you think of advanced chips, Taiwan, it really dominates the market, especially with those smaller nanometer chips. Something like 90% of those chips are manufactured in Taiwan, and most of that's from Taiwan Semiconductor. We need to take that responsibility, more of that responsibility, onto our shores. We talk about semiconductors, the new oil, and this is going to be a big deal. You're looking at not only the CHIPS Act in the United States, you're seeing tons of money being pumped into semiconductor equipment, semiconductor companies, foundries, by governments, not just in the US, but all over the world. We talk about the secular growth trends. Everything is fueled by semiconductors and really by cloud services, but cloud services need semiconductors in order to operate and to work, right? So when you think of artificial intelligence, not only does it need a platform, like cloud services like AWS or Microsoft Azure, it has to have that backbone, but you're going to need chips to power it. So things like the H200 GPUs from Nvidia. Now, this could be massive. India is considering slashing EV tariffs to lure Tesla. So India is considering a request from Tesla to lower tariffs for imported vehicles. This is according to Indian government officials as Elon Musk's company explores setting up a plant in the country. Tesla has asked New Delhi for an initial tariff concession that would allow it to offset India's steep customs duty of 70% for cars worth less than $40,000. 70% for cars worth less than $40,000. That's a big number. And 100% for cars worth $40,000 or more. So if you got a $50,000 vehicle, you're talking about a 100% tariff. Not only having a plant in India would be huge, but think about the numbers for a second here. Look at this chart. So this is going to be the top 50 countries with the largest population in 2022. Of course, everybody knows China is massive, right? 1.43 billion people. Just think about how many people that is for a second. Try to let that sink in. India, right behind China with 1.42 billion people. For perspective, the United States has 338 million people. A country like Japan has 124 million people, and that's a lot of people considering the size of the country. You know, Italy, 59 million, Spain, 48 million. Russia has 145 million, and the land mass is massive for Russia, right? So 1.42 billion people. Now, not everybody in that number is going to be able to afford a Tesla, of course, but there are a lot of people in that number that could buy a Tesla. And right now that market is virtually untapped. So every single Wednesday we do what we call Chart Day in Patreon Discord. We're going to have one again tomorrow morning, and you can join us every single Wednesday live by visiting patreon.com/firedupwealth. We do live streams every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 o'clock a.m. Eastern. Those are recorded. When you see orange, that's previous chart day. We cover QQQ every single chart day. Yellow is actually last week, Wednesday's chart day. We said upside of 393. And at that point, we were about $10 less, and it's ripped up nicely. And we really need to see that 404 in the QQQ, the NASDAQ 100. That would have been the highs from November of 2021. It was basically $403.99. And right now we're trading at $385. I think you could see it go up to something like 393. Could have consolidation there and maybe pull back. Generally, the market doesn't go up in a straight line. I think you have to be careful chasing some of the stocks here that have ripped really hard. I'm not buying a whole lot right now. That's why I wanted to just give you a quick market update video. And you guys will notice I've been using Seeking Alpha quite a bit in my videos recently. I am an affiliate with Seeking Alpha. And so if you're looking to join their premium service, there's actually a Black Friday deal going on right now. It's a pretty good discount. You can check out what that offer is. There's a link below that's going to be for Seeking Alpha if you're looking to join premium. And of course, we also have the private community, Patreon Discord for Fired Up Wealth. Check both those links out in the description below. I also have it pinned as one of the comments. But we got the holiday season coming up here, guys, and maybe we have a Santa Claus rally extension. There's still a lot of macro risk, in my opinion. I think you have to be careful. I'm not trying to sound bearish. Of course, I'm excited that the market's up just like you are. But if you look at what we've been buying in Discord, we were buying heavily when the market sentiment was really bad a couple weeks ago. And now a lot of people come in the market and they chase these highs. You got to be careful. Just like July, a lot of new people came into the market. They get excited. They see YouTube videos. They start buying stocks. And I think stocks can go higher. So I want you to hear me say that. Just be careful chasing. You might buy something now and then all of a sudden, you know, it's 10% higher in a couple of days, but then what does that look like 6 months from now? So make sure you understand what you're buying, have conviction in the companies, do your homework. We talk about dollar cost averaging and really long-term investing, and it works. Timing the market does not work. Buy quality companies, hold them long-term. In general, when we say long-term investing, we're saying 3 to 5 years minimum unless the story changes. So it's not buy and hold forever, but it's also not quick trading. It's not swing trading. We're planning on holding these stocks usually 5 years or more when we're buying them. And again, unless the story changes. I appreciate your time and attention, guys. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, click that bell for notifications, drop me a like, drop me a comment. Have a great rest of your day. Take care.